So this question has been circulating in my head for quite a while now. I actually wanted to make a video on this sooner, but I held it off for the longest time because I feel like this question could trigger so many people. Depending on how I answer, I could tick off the Amphibia community because I might suggest the show is not as good as the Owl House, or I could tick off the Owl House community because I might suggest it's overrated. So just to be clear, I do enjoy both of these shows a lot. Although personally, I prefer Amphibia for my own reasons. But even with that, I cannot ignore how the Owl House is objectively more popular than Amphibia. Nearly all the statistics I can find regarding these shows support this fact. On Google, people search up the Owl House a lot more than Amphibia. On social media platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and Discord, the Owl House communities there have more members than their Amphibia counterparts. Then when it comes to personal experiences, my videos on the Owl House generally perform better than my Amphibia videos. Part of it is due to timing, of course, but even when both shows are still airing, the Owl House will almost always draw a higher number of people. Also, in real life experiences, I've met a few people who know about the Owl House, but I haven't met anyone who knows about Amphibia. Of course, the popularity gap would be self-explanatory if these shows are worlds apart in every way. But that's the thing. These shows are supposedly very similar from their premise to certain character dynamics, even certain plot points. Now, this is not unique to just these two cartoons, but it is one of the most recent examples of this kind of discrepancy. Despite these shows being rather similar, one show has a much bigger community. So why is that? Well, my first reason is fairly obvious, which is Lumity. Although I'm not a big fan of shipping in general, it's true that most people in fandoms really care about it, and the fact that there's an LGBTQ plus couple in the show, in fact, there's many of them in the Owl House, it certainly gave the show a lot of attention. Again, the Owl House is the first Disney cartoon to prominently feature a canon same-sex couple. Of course, Amphibia also featured LGBTQ couples too, and many people in that community do a lot of shipping as well, but it's never to the same level as the Owl House, due to Amphibia choosing to highlight more of the family/platonic relationships. That may make it more relatable and preferable for some people like me, but I guess I'm in the minority in that regard.
Hey, there's more to life than shipping.
Don't you dare insult shipping in my presence!
Apprentice?
Of course, Lumity and shipping is one major factor, but it would be pretty cynical for me to say that it's just because of that is why the Owl House is a lot more popular. There's also the fact that the Owl House takes a lot more risks than Amphibia in terms of storytelling. Yes, the LGBTQ characters and relationships are a part of that, but I am more referring to the overall tone of the show. The Owl House is just darker overall, from the visuals, to the plot points, to the character development. While this tone may have made the show a bit less appealing to the demographic of viewers that Disney wanted to target, more on that later, it did allow the show to become very popular among the teen/young adult demographic, who happen to be the loudest voices in the animation sector of the internet. Granted, similar to shipping, Amphibia has its fair share of dark moments too. If anything, I'd argue that its darkest moments are even darker than the Owl House's darkest moments. But the vast majority of the show is relatively fun and lighthearted. That may be preferable for some people like me. Keep in mind, I watched the show for the humor initially, but again, for most animation fans, they prefer the darker show that takes more risks, especially since it does make it more unique at face value. That said, taking more risks doesn't automatically make a show more popular than its counterpart. One area where Amphibia does make more of a risk is, surprisingly, their character designs. Now, that is not to say the Owl House has very simple character designs. They definitely have some complexity at times. But when it comes to the most prominent characters, most of them are human or look basically human. With Amphibia, however, you got the three main human characters, and some more on Earth, but the rest are amphibians who come in a variety of forms. Sadly though, this is likely the area where taking risks worked against Amphibia's chances in gaining more popularity. To be fair, I don't have any statistics to back this up, but from what I see, people are more receptive to the premise of the Owl House. I mean, just think about it. Which show sounds more appealing? A show about a girl living in a world filled with witches and other magical beings? Or a show about a girl trapped in a world full of talking frogs? For anyone watching, I dare you to ask that exact question to someone who has never watched or heard of Amphibia and the Owl House. Odds are, people will pick the Owl House because its premise is already familiar to people. A world filled with magical beings is something that many people already know is a fun story to watch. However, a story about a world full of talking frogs is something that is a lot harder to explain and market to people. Believe me, I tried. I mean, it's not just with normal people that experience this. Among other devoted Amphibia fans, most people prefer talking about the 3 human characters over the multitude of amphibian characters. Even with the planters, who get exponentially more screen time than Sasha and Marcy combined, only get a fraction of the attention. Admittedly, even I'm guilty of doing this. I'm not saying that non-human characters are always going to be less popular than human characters. The most popular cartoon characters in history are anthropomorphic animals after all. But when it comes to the modern era of cartoons, particularly ones that are more story-driven and serious like what you see in Disney, human characters just seem more appealing to have a story around. At least that is the case for me and most people who are watching this video right now. The Owl House may be more popular compared to Amphibia in the online community of cartoon fans, but regarding Disney's intended audience for these shows, who are 6 to 11-year-olds, both cartoons attract similar amounts of people. In fact, when it comes to personal experience, one of my friends who works with children at this age told me that his students have watched Amphibia, but not the Owl House. That right there explains a lot actually. Despite the Owl House objectively having a bigger presence in social media and people who are older than 12 years old, there is a reason why that show was not granted a full season 3, while Amphibia did. Amphibia was a cartoon that took risks to attract older audiences, but it remained within the boundaries Disney set, where it entertained young kids and didn't piss off advertisers. Well, most of the time at least. Meanwhile, the Owl House went out of its way to bypass many of the executives' demands for the show and even mocked them at certain times.
Albert drags over from your side of the realm.
I shall smite my enemies, ages 6 to 11.
What silences children? What if we invent a TV network for ages 6 to 11?
That's insane.
Journey with us to a world of magic unlike any other. Well, a bit like this world, except toned down for ages 6 to 11.
Of course, it is worth noting that executives later regretted cutting the show short once they saw the potential it had with its older but devoted fan base, but it was too late sadly.
Uh-oh.
I can't believe it's finally my turn to say this, but told you so! Boom!
So even though the Owl House has a bigger presence and enthusiastic audience, in the end, that did not matter enough to the Disney executives because we are not the target demographic for them. Overall, these 2 cartoons and the popularity gap between them are a perfect demonstration on how sheer excitement and discourse on the internet does not mean support for the show itself, at least in the eyes of media companies. Corporations like Disney think about making profits from their products first and foremost, and one way they guarantee a profit is if their product does what it is intended. Amphibia did what Disney wanted it to do, which was to appeal to young children and satisfy the advertisers of Disney Channel. Well, most of the time. It just happens that it did a great job of appealing to an older audience of teens and young adults. It walked a fine line to where it was allowed to finish in the way that the creators intended. The Owl House sadly could not achieve that same objective as well, even though it had bigger potential for a different demographic. Ideally, Disney should have allowed the creators of cartoons to write whatever stories they want and appeal to the demographic of people that they want, and make a decent living doing all of that as well. The company will still get a vast market of people to sell their goods and services after all. However, that requires corporations like Disney to give in to the writers' and actors' demands, which is the last thing they want to do. They would rather pay for AI to make their products than pay creative humans a living wage. But I'll save that rant for another day. For now though, let me know what you guys think about Amphibia and the Owl House in the comments below, and please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to Seb13 for supporting this channel directly, and thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one!